Today I'm going to tell you how I bought my new Rolex at retail. Hello, welcome to Swiss Watch and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to do an unboxing and it's going to be of my latest purchase, the new Rolex Oyster Perpetual. If you own a modern Rolex, you'll recognize the box. It features the Rolex crown on top of it. It has this beautiful cream color. When you open it, there's this typical green Rolex box inside with the waves and the crown as well in gold. You can also see there's Rolex on the bottom, so this watch box definitely doesn't miss any branding. Opening up the box, you'll see which model and which dial I chose. You also saw it on the thumbnail and there's a big photo in the back as well. I chose the beautiful yellow dial. What you get is what you see, the watch, the seal, and there's a compartment here which you can open up. You can find the warranty manual. There's the warranty card here where you can see which model it is, when you bought it, and also what's the serial number of this watch. Because I won't sell this Rolex, I'm not afraid to show this, so they will not ban me. There's a nice leather pouch, as you can see again, Rolex branding all over the place. Here we also have the manual for how you use this watch, which you can read, how to set the crown, how to basically operate it. It's in German because I bought this watch here in Zurich, Switzerland. Going to a retailer and ordering a Rolex watch is always a pain in the rear side. Basically, when you go to a store and you want to buy the new models or maybe get on the list for one, they will always give you a hard time if you're not an existing client already. So how can you actually buy a Rolex at retail? It's actually not that difficult, but it's mainly connected to how much you spend at this location. What I advise you to do is to be loyal to one retailer or maybe two retailers where you buy different watches from. If you're always on a hunt for the best deal that you can find from a gray market dealer, a non-authorized retailer, or somebody else that would sell a watch in a secondary market, you will not build up your portfolio at this location. So I bought this watch at a retailer in Zurich where I purchased many watches before, and none of them were Rolex watches. We all know there's this so-called waiting list for these models, but let me tell you, the waiting list doesn't really exist like that. More or less, it's a wish list. So basically, the wish list has two criteria. So the first criteria is basically chronological, which means who ordered the watch first. But that's not really the determining factor. So if me and my friend ordered the same watch at the exact same time and I bought watches from them already and he didn't, I'll get my watch quicker and he might even wait months more. The second criteria is the spending history with this retailer. So you see, the waiting list or the wish list is really a hard game to play. And I really advise you that you find a retailer who has many brands with which you can grow. So basically, you can start off with a Longines or maybe like an Oris or something like that. Then eventually you buy a Rolex. Then when you have more money and your business is doing better or you're better at your job, you can get an AP with this retailer. So every watch you will buy, from the smallest amount to the biggest one, will go in your portfolio, and then you will get watches which are popular easier. The second option you have is going on the secondary market and paying double the retail price for a watch like this, which I think isn't worth it. Also, if you want to buy watches in the future from the same retailer, be careful, because if you sell this watch, let's say who many people want, you might get banned or you get on a blacklist. If I would now, for example, sell my watch on the biggest Swiss e-commerce platform, the chances are my retailer would find out that it is my watch, because I would write the month and probably the year I purchased it, and they don't get many of these watches. So basically it's maybe a handful they got, and one of them they just have to find out who it was, sold it, and then they would ban you or just deny you buying new modern Rolexes. For those of you who follow me for a while now, either on YouTube or Instagram, you know that I love independent watch brands. I've got quite a few watches in my collection already, and a lot of them are from independent watchmakers or watches which aren't really hyped. Buying a Rolex really helps balance it out. I look at my collection as a wealth portfolio, meaning I track for how much I bought my watches for and how much I could potentially sell them. I don't sell them, but it just gives me a nice overview of what it's worth and also how well I'm doing in the purchasing department. Ever since the new Rolex Oyster Perpetuals came out, I was keen to get one for myself. I don't own any hyped sports models by Rolex. I don't own a Submariner, I don't own a Daytona, and also I don't have an Explorer yet. That's why I wanted to buy something special, something fun, that doesn't cost too much, and it's gonna be a nice watch for the summer. The Rolex Oyster Perpetual line features many different colors, from coral to green, blue, silver or anthracite, this yellow one, and also the most popular one, the Tiffany blue color. From what I heard on the market, the blue Tiffany dial variants, either the 41mm or the 36mm one, fetched the highest resale value. For me, that wasn't an option because the color isn't really what fits my style. Fun fact, at Wimbledon, Roger Federer was also spotted wearing this exact dial color. So it adds a bit of verification to my purchase. You also might be surprised that I bought the 36mm version and not the 41mm version. I'm gonna explain to you why. The Rolex Oyster Perpetual is the entry-level Rolex for men and for women. It's a very, let's say, basic looking Rolex. It doesn't have a fluted bezel, it doesn't have a, presidential bracelet or any other complication. It's a nice everyday Rolex, and that's why I purchased it. The price of the 36mm model that I bought is 5,300 Swiss francs. If you want to buy the 41mm version, you have to pay 5,600 Swiss francs. Only 300 francs more for a bigger version. Personally, this watch for me is a more under the radar watch, but the dial doesn't really say that. The proportions of the dial on a 36mm versus a 41mm just work better. You have a very well balanced Rolex Oyster Perpetual in the top. On the bottom you have the superlative chronometer, officially certified. At 12 o'clock you have the beautifully polished Rolex crown, and around the periphery of the dial you have 18 karat gold applied indexes. The applied indexes shimmer really nicely and cast a nice shadow over the dial, depending on the light and the angle it hits it. The indexes also feature chromalite blue luminescence, which is actually very strong. So when I drive my car with this watch and I go into a tunnel, it really strikes me how strong it is and how much it charges. Around the inner wall of the bezel you can see the Rolex name spelled all over it, and at 6 o'clock on the bottom you can actually read the serial number. So if you want to buy this watch from a reseller, make sure to compare the warranty card and also the serial number on the bottom. The quality of the yellow lacquer dial is exquisite. We have also printed markers on the periphery of the dial to mark the hours and the minutes. You can really use this watch every day because of the robust case and the bracelet, and also the movement side performs really well. Inside the watch we have the in-house caliber 3230, which was introduced in 2020. It's a COSC certified and also Rolex certified movement, which means that the standards are much higher. The deviation in time for this watch per day is -2 to +2 seconds a day. As you might know, the caliber 3230 features the chronology escapement patented by Rolex, which is known for combining high energy efficiency with also great dependability. It also has a blue parachrome hairspring, paraflex shock absorbers, and a total of 70 hours of power reserve. Although this isn't a diver's watch, the watch features a water resistance of 100 meters and a screw-down crown. You can also see it has hacking seconds, so you can set up the time more precisely. The scratch-resistant sapphire crystal hovers above the bezel. The bezel is also domed and highly polished, as well as on the sides of the case and the crown. The top of the case, as well as the thrilling oyster bracelet, is brushed, which makes the watch look very stealthy. On the folding clasp you also can see the embossed logo, and when you open it there's a few inscriptions which you can expect when you buy a real Rolex watch. The case and the bracelet, as we're used to with Rolex watches, is made of oyster steel, which is hardened and more durable than normal stainless steel. You can also adjust the bracelet by half a link or about 5 millimeters. This feature is very useful because you set a strap for your size, and then if you sweat a bit more you can open it slightly, or if your wrist gets cold you close it so it's more tight on the skin. Let me now put the watch on the wrist and show how the 36mm looks on my 18.1 centimeter wrist size. It doesn't look that bad, and you see the color, depending on the light and depending on the angle, changes a bit. From the side you can see the height of the watch, it's 11.85 millimeters. If you have straps which you want to use for this watch, the lug width is actually 20 millimeters. The diameter, as we discussed, is 36 millimeters, and with the crown 37. And lug to lug I measured around 43.3 millimeters. Because this watch features a bracelet, it appears much bigger on the wrist. I can wear watches from 46 down to 34 and still feel comfortable about it. So don't really take into account that you're a man and you have to buy necessarily a 41mm watch. I always advise you to go check out the watches in person and see what fits you most. This is not a watch you will want to show off with. It's not a big, Submariner or Daytona. It's a more discreet piece, so go try on the 36mm and see for yourself. What I gotta say is that this watch is very well made. The quality of it overall and the performance of the movement for what you pay for it is really cool. If you consider paying 5,300 for a Rolex watch like this, you probably won't be sorry. Let me know in the comment section below which dial color and also which size would you choose. On the side next to my robot lamp Carl, is a picture of a watch we review next time on the channel. It's only a slight part of it, and if you know which one it is, leave a comment down below and maybe you'll guess it right this time. Like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you next week.